A good day to all viewers. I, Banani Das, Assistant Professor, Royal Global University, along with Royal Times, bring to you another introspective view into a serious concern that disturbs the nation's peace. Two crises ahead of us, fatal in all conditions. The buzzwords: COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. So many questions and maybe very few answers. The coronavirus pandemic has reached almost every country in the world. Its spread has left national economies and businesses counting the costs as governments struggle with new lockdown measures to tackle the spread of the virus. Though cases are under control in Assam, officials fear that cases could rise suddenly due to the recently concluded assembly elections. With India being hit by the second wave and crossing the mark of 1 lakh, is it necessary for India to head towards another lockdown? The worst hit state, Maharashtra, has imposed night curfew and weekend lockdown. Punjab has imposed night curfew, restrictions on social gatherings and political rallies. Madhya Pradesh has announced several COVID-19 curbs. Chhattisgarh announced a 10-day lockdown in Raipur. Night curfew will soon begin in major cities of Uttar Pradesh, including Lucknow, Varanasi, Kanpur. Year 2020 has experienced 4 lockdowns, dear viewers. 25 March to 31st May and 2 unlock periods, 1st June to 31st July. The Indian government argues that lockdown has successfully reduced the spread of the novel coronavirus epidemic. While we question and argue if it has really done so, where does the truth lie? The effects of lockdown on disease cannot and should not be looked at in isolation. They are entwined with its political, humanitarian effects, including unemployment, hunger, migrant worker crisis, widespread loss of access to health care. This crisis could have been averted or lessened with planning, but they are now an essential part of India's lockdown story. As the national picture becomes increasingly complicated, the center takes on a more symbolic and supervisory role. Dashboards performance in different states shift perceptions of reality and responsibility and places pressure on state governments to perform. It is they who become the villains when there is failure to control the disease, even where national policy may be to blame. The blame game encourages states to manipulate data, including finding ways to underreport COVID-19 infections and deaths. The politics of lockdown is even deadlier than the virus. These lockdowns have shown us different phases of ups and downs. As per a report of Economic Times, one of the few positive spin-offs of the nationwide lockdown has been a dramatic reduction in air pollution. NASA data reveals that air pollution in North India has dropped to a 20-year low. Harvard University study reveals and establishes a correlation between long-term exposure to air pollution and COVID-19 mortality. The study finds that people living in polluted cities are more likely to have compromised respiratory, cardiac, and other systems, and therefore are more vulnerable to COVID-19. Also, if we want to break the chain, then lockdown is a viable option to defend the human community from the onslaughts of coronavirus. On the other hand, viewers, we have seen massive economic loss. India's growth in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020 went down to 3.1% according to Ministry of Statistics. The World Bank and rating agencies initially revised India's growth for FY 2021 with the lowest figures India has seen in 3 decades since India's economic liberalization in the 1990s. CRISIL announced that this will perhaps be India's worst recession since independence. Globally, big shifts in stock market, where shares in companies are bought and sold, will affect the value of pensions, individual savings accounts. It has been a difficult year for job seekers. Many people have lost their jobs or seen their incomes cut. Unemployment rates have increased across major economies. In the United States, the proportion of people out of work has hit a yearly total of 8.9%, according to International Monetary Fund, signaling an end to a decade of jobs expansion. The number of new jobs and opportunities is still very low in many countries. Viewers, with all these concerns in hand, the other option that general public has before them is to mitigate the pandemic by going ahead with life normally, following the COVID protocols. School children have returned to the classrooms, a sign of relief and major concern too. Assam gears up to celebrate the Rongali Uthab Bihu after the assembly elections. Assam Health Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has ruled out the imposition of another lockdown or night curfew in the state to check the spread of new variant of the novel coronavirus. But he said people in the state would celebrate Bihu with certain restrictions due to the second wave, a sign of happiness and concern again. I leave you viewers with another question. Is our population careful enough to follow the protocols? Are we a population of responsible citizens? Maybe, looking into all these concerns, vaccination is among the few ways we have right now ahead of us to defeat the virus. For more updates, information, views, debates, and news, stay tuned to Royal Times. Thank you.